Have you ever sat and watched a parent teach their child how to walk, or perhaps you're a parent yourself and you had to teach your child how to walk? The infamous way that most people usually go about doing this outside of a walker is they'll stand the child up, they'll hold their hands, and then they'll begin to walk backwards as they gently pull the child along. And it causes the child's instinct of putting that foot out in front of them to kick in. And after you do it for just a little bit and the child's looking at you and they're all happy and giggly like, babies do, then you gradually you take one hand away and then you take the other hand away. And for a brief moment, they appear to be walking on their own. And then they fall. Sometimes they fall because they realize, hey, you're not holding me anymore. And sometimes they fall just because, they haven't developed a great balance yet. But either way, they fall. Well, our walk with Yahuah is a lot like that baby learning how to walk. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. All right, let's get into it. Yahuah is a lot like that example of the parent teaching their child to walk. The parent knows and understands why they're doing what they're doing, the method that they're taking, and what it's going to produce. But as the child, we don't. We just know that our parent is there telling us to do something and encouraging us and influencing us to do something, but we have no clue as to why and what it's going to do. So one of the things that I've had to realize over the course of my walk with Yahuah is he'll give you something in a season. Like he'll tell you in one season that he's going to do this, that, and the other in and through your life, right? And then it seems like every season leading up to that season where he actually manifests what he said is just it's riddled with trials and tribulations, just storm everywhere. It's a storm. It's a storm everywhere. I promise you. But that's because, first and foremost, the enemy is going to always attack the seed that was placed in you by Yahuah. But also because these storms, because we already know we have victory in Yahushua HaMashiach, but it's also because these storms are meant to produce a harvest in us. That's how Yahuah is cultivating us and teaching us to walk with him. You got to understand, he's not going to tell you that I'm going to do this, that, and the other in and through you, and then just do it, because you might wind up hurting yourself or someone else if you're not taught how to operate in the functions or in the giftings or in the callings and the anointings that he's placed on your life. So what he has to do is he has to set you up in trials and tribulations and testings, or he has to allow trials and tribulations, and then he has to test you so you can see where you're at. The testing is never for him because he's Yahuah. He already knows where your heart is, but he's showing you your progress. You know what I'm saying? So think about it. If you are a marathon runner, you don't stand at the starting line and then go, I'm at the finish line, or start at the finish line, the starting line, and then take one step and you're at the finish line. That's not how it works. You have to put one foot in front of the other in order to get to that finish line. And that's the same thing that happens in our walk with Yahuah. So one of the scriptures that always comes to mind when I think about this is Matthew chapter 6. Now, in Christianity, they call it the Lord's Prayer. But, if you read what he says, he literally tells his Talmudim, his disciples, this is how you should pray. So truthfully, it's the disciples' prayer. So anyway, he says, Our Father who art in heaven, okay? First thing and foremost, acknowledge that he is your Father, all right? Acknowledge who he is. Hallowed be thy name. So you acknowledge that he's your Father and you acknowledge that he's holy. Basically, you're saying, I know that you're capable to do whatever it is that I ask of you. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So now you're surrendering. You're surrendering your will over to him. Before you even start talking about anything else, you're surrendering. Then he says, give us this day our daily bread. Go to John chapter 6. Yahushua tells you that he is the bread, the manna that was sent from heaven to the Israelites in the wilderness. Okay? In the first Exodus. So he is the manna from heaven. Manna is unleavened bread. Give us this day our daily bread. So Yahushua is also the word of Yahuah in the flesh. All right. Also in the book of John 1:1. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with Yahuah, and the word was Yahuah. Okay. So we know that he is the word of Yahuah in the flesh. With that being said, he's telling you, ask him daily what it is he wants you to do. And then later on in Matthew chapter 6, he tells you, don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow has enough worry of its own. You just worry about today. Okay. It's not our job to worry about a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plan like they told us in the world. See, the world has a deadbeat father. That's what Satan is to the world. A deadbeat father. Yeah, he got all these kids, but he ain't taking care of them. And even the ones that he does give stuff to every once in a while, he still requires a lot from them. Like, we were forgiven. We have a lot of grace and mercy given to us from our father. But Hasatan, he counting every single thing that you got from him because he coming to collect. You know what I'm saying? He's a deadbeat. But Yahuah is not. So he's like, don't even worry about tomorrow. That's not your job. Your job is to worry about today and what I'm telling you to do today. Did you do what I asked? Did you do what I asked? You know what I'm saying? So he's telling you, ask what it is. Because check this out. If he told you that he's going to give you a spouse, he's going to start instructing you daily on the different things that you're supposed to do. And it might not make sense to you, just like the method that the parent is taking to help that child learn how to walk might not understand. You're like, why did you stand me up? And why are you holding both my hands like this? And why are you pulling me towards you while you're going back? That baby doesn't understand why the parent is doing what they're doing, but the parent understands why they're doing what they're doing. The baby doesn't even understand what walking is because they've never done it before. Just like we don't understand any of the things that Yahuah is calling us to do because we've never done it before. You know what I'm saying? So we have to trust and understand that our Father is our Father. He knows everything. He's the creator of all. He's omnipotent. He's omnipresent. And I always forget the other one, you guys, but he's all knowing. Okay. He's all knowing. Omnipresent. Is that the other one? It doesn't matter. Y'all know what I'm talking about prayerfully. And if you don't, then I apologize because apparently I don't seem to know what I'm talking about either. Anyway, he knows all things. So we have to trust him daily. Daily, we have to follow. Matter of fact, Shaul said, I die daily. You know what I'm saying? Every single day. And that goes back to the disciples' prayer because the first thing we had to do before we even asked him for our instructions for the day is we have to surrender to his will. He told us to surrender to his will, and then we have to surrender to his will and then ask for his instructions. And I think it's kind of genius how Yahushua set that prayer up. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I remember in Christianity, a lot of us took that prayer so literal. Like, we would literally pray the exact same words that he said. And he's like, nah, bruh, it's a whole concept. I'm just giving you an outline of how you're supposed to be praying, but you add in the words. You know what I'm saying? Don't say verbatim what I'm saying. Like, this is not Simon Says, but say this is the outline of how you should be praying to him is basically what he was saying. All right. And then you can go on and finish reading that prayer for yourself. And I pray that Ruach HaKodesh give you eyes to see and ears to hear exactly what it is that Yahushua was really saying, and not the surface level things that we see, which is like the literal words that he was saying, but the spiritual meaning and context behind it, because Yahuwah is Ruach, and those who worship him must worship him in Ruach and in truth, which means you got to have spiritual eyes and spiritual ears. You have to worship him in spirit, not in flesh. Nowhere does it say we're supposed to worship in flesh. I'm getting all off context, but yeah, whatever he's telling you to do for that day, it may not make not a lick of sense to you, but understand, Yahuwah never tells us to do anything for no reason. if he's telling you to do something that day, understand it's because it's bringing you closer to what he told you he's going to do in and through your life. And the longer you put it off doing what it is he told you to do, the longer it's going to take you to get to that season where it manifests. And here's the thing about that. Yahuah has a time for everything. Ecclesiastes says there's a time for everything under the sun. Yahuah has a time for everything. Last thing you want to do is get to the season where you're supposed to be walking in that, walking in his manifested will, and you ain't walking in it because you was too busy doing what you wanted to do. I was reading the book of, was it Enoch? I think I was reading the book of Enoch, and he was talking about there was an angel that was in charge of the sun and an angel in charge of the moon. And, I started thinking, I was like, well, if that's the case, what if the angel in charge of the sun decided, you know what, I'm not going to do my job today. We'd literally be sitting in darkness, you guys, because the angel was like, bro, I'm good. I'll do it tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really that serious. It's really that serious. Because if we want to go and dwell with him in his Ruach kingdom, then we got to understand that there are angels already in his kingdom currently that when he speaks, they do. You know what I'm saying? And he's training and teaching us how to be like that. But our flesh is always getting in the way. That makes sense. That's the reason why in the disciples' prayer, Yahushua tells us that first we got to surrender our will over to his. So that our flesh won't get in the way when we get our ruachal instructions, our spiritual instructions from Yahuah. I pray that this makes sense. So yeah, going back to steps. Whatever it is he's telling you to do, it doesn't make sense. I get it. But there are certain things that he's been telling me to do lately that, I've been doing them, but I'm just like, why you gotta be doing this? But now that I'm getting closer to something that he spoke to me seasons ago, I'm like, oh. And even some of the tests and trials and the tribulations that I went through in some of the seasons right before this one that I'm currently in, I can look back now and go, okay, I see why you did that. I see why this was going on. I see why that was happening. I understand. But I didn't understand in the moment. Just like now as a 39-year-old woman, I understand why my parents were holding my hands and slowly tugging me towards them to try to get me to put one foot in front of the other. Like, I understand now, especially as a mother myself, but I didn't understand then. My best friend always says hindsight is 20/20. Yeah, it is. But the thing about it is we need to start recognizing Yahuah now. The things he's doing and saying now. I'm not going to keep dragging this out. This really doesn't need to be a long episode, but I just pray that this blessed you guys, okay? So anyway, as usual, if you want to get in contact with the ministry, you can contact me at replenishme@gmail.com. Much shalom and ahav, and always, until next time, shalom alahym.